the weather and all. It said this
That's
means,
okay. That's okay. That's something else in the background, but we're getting ourselves live streamed.
so should I?
You keep talking. They can hear you on the radio, and that's what counts. But we will
Oh, it's
also.
just they said leave,
No. You keep talking. You just keep
and
talking.
there's a little blue thing for me to press. Is that right? That says,
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing the message you're getting, but I can hear you, Herb, and I can see you. So I think you just.
yeah, I'm fine now.
Okay.
The
Good.
little message said, got it. I don't know what they got, but I
Good.
pressed the got it and I'm back.
Yeah, I have so much help, Herb. I have to tell you. I mean, Leanne Lindsay is helping me from her house, helping us with the YouTube. So I don't screw things up. I have Thane Vervold, who's working his regular job, but he's also here helping me. He's a real tech guy. I have Jean Barry and Susan Rushmeyer, and when Roberta Chan gets in, and they're the ones that give me all of these updates. And so, we got a house full here trying to keep everybody informed. And I'm glad you're in Berkeley and not having to deal with all of this because
Well,
you'd have a freezing house by now.
yes, so far the house here is, my apartment is secure in terms of weather, you know?
Yeah. You were starting to mention our change in politics. And I just have to say, Herb, as you know, I'm a political junkie. I just can't watch the news. I just can't watch what's going on right now. And I know that I will at some point and become more informed, but I'm so um disheartened, I guess is the easiest word to say.
Yeah, I would say for me, I'm disgusted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of these people, what comes out of their mouths and the hypocrisy and the lies and and the straightforward filth that comes out of people's mouths these days is very, very distressing. I think underlying it is a major disorder in the society. That is, we are no longer secure in the way in which we were, say, prior Trump and prior some of these militias and prior the 6th of January. All of these things now have led to a nation of even deeper insecurity, especially when it comes to people of color who are being discarded in ways that are outrageous in the legal system. The only thing I wish for myself right now is being 30 years younger and having 30 years to fight. You know, I'm 85, so I don't think I'm going to live to 115.
Well,
But
I
who
think
knows?
who knows, but boy, your words and your writing are going to help people stay strong and fight. And that's, exactly I haven't lost my desire to fight, but I have to regroup a little bit here. I don't think any of us were expecting it to be, in your words, as disgusting as it is. And nothing is getting done, nothing positive is getting done for the American people.
And you look at. I think Trump is gone. I'm not worried about him anymore. That is, he's made such a fool of himself. He's been exposed. His big belly is sticking out. It's too big for his clothes. Um, but that leaves us with equally evil people waiting in the wings. And the ones who are waiting in the wings are a little bit more humanly tolerable I mean, I can't imagine being in a room with Trump without throwing up, frankly. But
Well, you know, the one positive thing about the voting, the whatever it was, 18 votes for McCarthy, was getting to watch Congress live, getting to see them and all of the Congress people, many of the ones that we each know, whether you're Republican or Democrat, also watching them talk with each other, occasionally yell at each other, but see how things were working or not working. But I think it's important for people who haven't been at Congress to see it in action. I mean, I've been there a few times as a journalist, and I'm always in awe of being in those chambers and seeing these people who clearly take themselves very seriously, as they should. But you know, having and having all the different pundits on TV, but watching Congress in action, something that people don't get to see, is so important.
yes, and seeing their faces, just hearing them, though, as a writer, it troubles my mind, the misuse of language, the disregard for meaning, the lack of listening. You know, when the congressmen argue, they're really just taking two parallel roads that never meet. So they're not really arguing, and they're not really intensely listening to each other. So it's a conversation, but not a dialogue, is my feeling.
Well said. Exactly. I think you described it exactly. There is no dialogue, and there's parallel, otherworldly track that these I can't remember what that group of Republicans are that are just united in false facts and whatever their direction they think they're headed. I mean, in trying to take this nation back to what they believe back was, not necessarily even reality there.
I don't think that there are too many of them that have a conscious articulation of what back means. You know, back covers everybody got a back, right? And anything that happened in the past, you can call back. So, but when they say take us back, they can't give you a picture, at least for the ones I know. They can't be specific about when the back was, can't even point to 1 year that was the back year, given the nature of our history and the history of war in the 20th century and then of colonialism in the 19th century. There's no back. That's interesting. If there's no back, that means we're all flat characters, have no dimension. And there's something to the dialogue going on now that is dimensionless. It doesn't have any depth to it. And there are, pardon me, there are people who are deeply concerned and who give a great deal of thought to this. But I'm talking about the major media, I'm talking about the politicians, local and national. And I'm talking about what people feel that the United States has become a laughing stock of the world, which is true to a large degree. Because a lot of people can point now and say, we told you that you were not what you say you are, that your values and your actions do not match in any way. And we've been trying to tell you for at least a century, and you paid no attention, but you acted it out yourself for us. And so there's a real disregard and disrespect towards United States as having any proper, decent value as a whole. It's funny living in a country like that, where you see so much change so quickly and so unspokenly, you know?
Yeah, sadly I do know. Just want to remind people you're listening to Peggy's Place this morning on KGOA in at the southern tip of Mendocino County, the northern tip of Sonoma County. Herb Kohl is our monthly guest. He's general I can't even talk anymore, Herb. He's here on the second Tuesday of most months, and we love talking with Herb, an educator, a
I think
writer.
it's Wednesday.
Thank you, Wednesday. See, my brain is fried. I'm looking at the calendar. It says Wednesday, and Tuesday comes out of my mouth.
Well, the everybody's brain is partially fried, I'm sure.
But
I lost a very, very dear friend the other day. He was my age. I don't know if you've ever met or heard of Norm Fruchter. He's an educator and a scholar. He was on the staff of NYU for a while and worked on small schools for the Aaron Diamond Foundation. And he used to run Independence High School in the 60s, one of the big alternatives in Newark, New Jersey, of all places. And he was coming out of his apartment in Brooklyn and got killed by a car.
oh,
And it's like he's thinking of him as part of my, what would Norman say, you know? He's someone I respected so deeply and so much. And now something's missing, but I having been hit by a car in New York, I don't think that's a particularly special thing, but being killed by one is special and is terminal, you know?
I'm so sorry.
And what?
I'm very sorry for your loss. Well, you continue telling us about Norm.
Well, he is worked for the Small Schools Network. He was probably the person most responsible for the positive reforms in New York City education. He was constantly there. He was on several school boards in Brooklyn. In fact, interestingly enough, the one my granddaughter, Erica's daughter, went to when she was teaching at New School. It's a superb public school district. The superintendent there became the chancellor of the city system. So he became an advisor to that chancellor and all the chancellors in the past 10 or 15 years. Norm's the kind of guy that you treasure because he doesn't do it for ego. He doesn't put his face, his body out in front of everybody, but behind the scenes, he has been very helpful because he's so thoughtful, so analytic, and basically one of the early SDS members who has maintained those values. So I've known him since we lived in Berkeley in the 70s. And I met him, in fact, here in Berkeley in a friend's apartment in 1971 or 69. And I have to say, it's a major loss. He was still functioning as an elder to many, many educators across the country. And he's done lots of articles and lots of writings, but there's something missing. And his wife is a good friend, and I feel for her and his son and his family. The loss is both personal and pedagogical, you might say. And he's also was one of the nicest people you can imagine. Um, you know, when there was, he also made some films on the Democratic convention in Washington, where right after Kennedy was killed, and of other conventions where the Mississippi Freedom Democrats took over. If you read the depth history of education in the from 1950, my guess is from 58 till the present, you'll see his name as a footnote, as articles cited, as a meeting with, as advice to, but never say, and as a school board member, talking about what it means to have a outside person elected to run a school district who is not working in the district. It's enormous sorts of affection and wisdom that he had. And I've been affected much more seriously than I thought I would be. Not since my wife's death have I felt the loss of a person so deeply.
A kindred spirit. Do you, with that in mind, looking at the future, are the roots that you all have put down for so many of us, not only my generation and the generations that follows, do you see future leaders coming up?
Well, that's very interesting. That's exactly one of my tasks right now is to try to identify and support the people who are current leaders. I'd look at the people who founded Black Lives Matters, who are still very active. I see my daughter Erica as one of the leaders. I'm not bragging about that. I'm talking about the quality and nature of her work and its national scope. So she has a whole cohort of friends and younger people, former students of hers, that are out there doing things. Bill Ayers is still around, not quite as old as I am, but I'm sure that there are a whole bunch of young people, and I am in search of them. If you like, as I find them, I will share them with you.
That would be great, because it's something that, we often talk about, where are the young ones, what are they doing, and how do, I mean, we know they're out there, but I'm not running into too many people. I think in our community, Norma Roscoe is a wonderful young leader. When she's done a lot of work. I don't know if she's actually leading, but she was working in Oakland. She's done I see a lot of promise in her. I don't know what she's doing at this point, but talk about school boards. We have one Native person on the Point Arena School Board, Sal Martinez, and who else is running? There's another Native person running to be on the Point Arena School Board. That's a good sign.
That's a good, and I think that the reason we don't have publicly recognizable, I think the pandemic is part of it, in the sense that it's retarded the growth. But the people who are the leaders are doing the work now that will make them leaders in the future. So that, for example, if you look at me in let's say some people consider me to be somewhat of a leader. If you looked at me in the 60s and the 70s, you'd find me teaching kindergarten, first grade. You'd find me teaching elementary school. You'd find me involved in a small or not so small community struggle. And it was later that I emerged on a larger scale. But I think the day by day footwork and the emotion, the pain, the skills you develop earlier is what leads to people being listened to by others. And so let's believe that it's the people on the ground. The problem with the teachers is in education, it was totally disrupted by the pandemic. Schools were closed, organizations couldn't sustain themselves, people were worried about jobs, people dying. You know, we are as a nation, just from a medical and mental health thing, still in recovery. And it's very hard to want a leader when you're still trying to recover part of yourself and your past. So it's a very complicated question of where the leaders are. I find it, because I'm not out on the street anymore and I limp too much and I have a cane and I can't run but I can still talk, I can still think. I want to know those leaders. I think what we need, what I did that I'm very proud of, is in the 60s, it was not the 60s, in the 70s and in the 80s, every once in a while, I stood back and said, you know, there was I heard of a great program in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and one in Kansas City, and one in San Antonio, and one in Houston, and one in, like that, in New Orleans, Portland. And so I said to myself, how about on occasion bringing the leadership of those local things together, but together to share with each other and get to know each other, but not to form a new organization and not to leave the work they're doing, but to make their work known to others so that they could be of mutual assistance. And that worked really nicely because it was quiet. The meetings were all private. There was no big audience. You didn't have to pay to come. Sometimes we even were able to raise people's fares. I think things like that, a number of them done in Point Arena, by the way, are what the stage we're at now. So if we can identify these people and find a way to bring them together just to get to know each other and share each other's work and go back home and let something grow from those type of regional or national meetings organically. Let the national leadership emerge organically from the current acknowledged local leadership is my idea. Because we need that organicity to the struggle, because those are the people who, as Miles Horton called someone, a lifer. We need someone who is going to be part of the struggle the rest of their life while they're engaged, while they're still engaged in the struggle, not after they've taken 2 jobs to jump up somewhere and forgot what they were like. We need a continuous flow of talent, ingenuity, passion, morality in the field. And we need a post-pandemic series of gatherings. It's funny, I'm thinking out loud right now.
Well, I think you're
Always provoke me to that.
well, I appreciate that because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are thinking similarly. That leads me to the question now of yes, I think that nothing beats getting together for a few days and meeting each other and learning to trust each other and build something together, or the foundations being laid. But today, many people are doing like you and I are doing right now,
Yeah.
because it's harder to travel, harder to get
Yes.
together. So how do you feel about, I mean, when we like now during this emergency, what's one of the most important pieces is where people can go and charge their phone, charge their tablet, charge their computer, or a place that has internet so that they can connect with each other. This is newer, this is a completely different part of society now that we're all dependent on.
Yes, very definitely. And I would hope that something will emerge from things like that. Communal action, you mean?
Yes.
Community action in everybody's self-interest. That's what's interesting about this, because if the whole community couldn't charge up, you get paralyzed right now.
Mhm.
Wouldn't know where to go, how to go, wouldn't know about the storm. I just think of what it was like when I was a kid, when there was no TV, radio was rarer, and the radio was a precious object to own in my community. They
Mhm.
were, and I remember during World War II, people would gather in each other's houses to listen to the radio to find out what was going on in the war and what was going on in their own community and about victory gardens and all the rest of that. And the nuclear times also had a lot of community organizations because of shelter, from presumed attacks. And I think that maybe we need a crisis, who knows?
Mm.
Because crises brings out leadership of people who do not think of themselves as leadership, but who think of themselves as perhaps leaders in a small group, but also as workers for justice in one way or another. And there are many more of them than we think of, and that any single person knows about. But
What you reminded me of when I started broadcasting at KPFA back in the 70s, early 70s. The Native American community would gather around when my show was on in people's houses to listen to it because, as you say, and a lot of people don't realize, FM radios were very expensive in the 70s. And so, most people weren't buying FM stereo radios. And the rise of community radio became critical to connecting some of those groups you're talking about, the disenfranchised or those who were becoming leaders in their communities. So I'm very proud that we've all contributed to that, and that we still do in times of need, like right now, how the community is absolutely depends that we get to them with the information they need in this type of storm emergency. But the other part of this is it's the listening part in this part of, talking with each other.
I was just going to, as a side thing, Amy Goodman began as a community radio.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
She used to be in a firehouse.
Yep.
Remember, she was in a firehouse downtown.
Yeah, I remember when she sort of broke it big. I was still at KGOA then when she did all the reporting and of the oil companies in South America. I think that was the stories that really she broke out and
That's
grew
right.
from there. Yeah. Well, a lot of people came, particularly from KPFA or the Pacifica stations, WBAI and Houston stations. I mean, there a lot of great leaders, writers, thinkers came out of that. We don't have that much other than the KPFAs that can have the huge stations and the huge signals that can do that. But this what we're doing through with the storm here is, I think, what community radio is all about, is
That's right.
community. But I want to, get back. We just have a few minutes left, and I don't want to spend time just pondering on where the leaders are. I mean, we do know that some are out there. They're on some of the shows that we carry. But back to this question, and I think we bounce this around a lot. Why is it so important to keep fighting?
Well, personally, well, let me put it this way. Everybody wants to breathe fresh air. Everybody wants their children to grow as full and decent human beings. Well, I'm sorry, most people. I don't want to say everybody anymore because I've encountered some people these days who lack any form of decency. But if we want to live in a decent society, we need information, we need intelligence, we need conversation, and we need thoughtful listening. And radio is perhaps certainly the most portable way to do it. You can get it in your car, you get it when you go to the ball game. If you go to the ball game, you get it on a picnic. If you want to go to a picnic, when you go to the beach, when you go on vacation, radio is portable. And it's the portable nature of radio that has made it so effective. That's why gorillas who are in the jungle somewhere all have shortwave radios. My daughter Erica posted a picture of her shortwave radio on Facebook this morning because she's been without electricity, without heat, without other things in Davis. It's been almost as bad as Point Arena. And to lose all of that in your house while your daughter was going to virtual school and your husband was trying to keep a community organization together, it pays to be collective. It pays to be portable, and it pays to be thoughtful. That would be my, that's the mantra for today.
Be collective, be portable, and in that way you stay together. That's and the other part of that, I think the lessons, some of the lessons from the eras that we both from, was taking care of each other.
Being decent, yes.
Being decent. And that's something that we've been saying every day, every hour during this, is go check on your neighbors, go check on them.
That's right.
It gets tough. And there are a lot of people who are living farther out. I didn't realize that Davis was having that many, the issues as well.
Yes, it was. It's on a flat valley.
Oh, yeah.
And the storms come sweeping right across the valley or sweeping up the valley, the San Joaquin Valley from Bakersfield, and they get it from the ocean and they get it from the north. So it's been hit pretty badly.
Well, this whole state is being battered right now. I don't think it's raining tomorrow. It's supposed to not rain at all, but and that'll help. But you're familiar with this area, so with all of these trees, and Susan mentioned something as we were coming in today. She does a lot of work outdoors, and she was talking about the problem with the trees and how we need to thin a lot of the trees in our area. But the reason that the trees are such a mess really goes right back to colonization. It goes back to people coming up here and just deciding they can cut every redwood tree down they want. And they haven't paid any attention to the firs and the pines that have grown up and they're also at the end of their lifespan, many of them as well. So that's contributing to it. But it goes all the way back to that greed of the people who came up to this area and just plundered the trees.
And having no decency when it comes to the earth, when it comes to the life around them, the trees, the grasses, the animals around. There has to be, what I mean by decent is you treat everybody as if on the moral and social plane, as if they could be or would be a neighbor or a member of your family. And you have to find a way to try that. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, try again. But the crucial thing is, by doing it, you build up a core in yourself so you don't get so down that you stop fighting. I mean, I can't imagine stop fighting. But then again, I have a long history that goes way back before my great-grandparents, because a lot of times Jews were in rebellion or were oppressed. And so it's in the blood, it's certainly in inheritance. Native people in the United States have to understand what it means to lose, right?
We know a lot about losing, unfortunately, yes.
Yes, and I think all of that is got to be turned into growth factors for unity and factors for strength and struggle.
Resilience.
What?
Resilience is a word, important.
Resilience, but not merely resilience, but in a positive way, aggression towards curing things. We all should be some sort of feel that we play part in curing the damage that's been done. And being a teacher, being a doctor, being a broadcaster, being an artist, and being a decent business person is all contributing to the curing of the society. You know, you can do it wherever you sit and wherever you stand. But today, if you can't fly on passenger planes, did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
They canceled nationwide, at least this is according to the news I get, that there's a nationwide canceling of passenger air travel because of computer problems today.
Right. That, as far as I know, was fixed just about the time we went on the air. Yes,
Well,
major computer problem. I did hear about that. Yeah.
Well, the idea that a nation can be crippled that way, that is so much travel, commerce and all goes by air, should be a lesson to us about taking care of even not only what has been created, but of what we are currently creating. We've got to be careful. We've got to be caring. And I think what you are talking about in the local community is some of the best things I've heard about upstate. I mean, to me, this is you're upstate in a long time, because it's carrying out of necessity, but it's specific. It affects individuals, small groups, and the whole community at the same time and in similar or related ways. I think, in a sense, we should be grateful that the electricity's been out for a while, but not grateful for day 9.
Absolutely.
I'm not being romantic and saying, oh, we should thank all the pain we have, but we should be grateful that we have something to learn from. Our reaction, analyze it. By the way, analyze the centers of communication now and see if they could grow into redefining as caring their own current missions. That's
I got to call time. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I love talking with you, Herb. You stimulate me.
It's
I
been
hope
a
you stimulate.
delight. Okay, have a good day.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye bye, and thanks for your patience. All right. Audio.